Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. As you can see right in front of you, we are taking a look at another Mattel figure today, and this is actually the newest version of the Basic Proceratosaurus. We have reviewed the Basic Proceratosaurus before with the initial release, but they have now released a newly repainted version, and me being a sucker for everything Mattel and Jurassic World, I had to pick it up, so let's take a look at it today. As far as the packaging, you can see I have it laying here on its side, but that's due to the fact that it's very tall, and once I stand it up, it wouldn't really fit in frame, but down here at the bottom you can see it does say Proceratosaurus. We get a shot of Blue kind of giving us that evil type of a look, and then Owen once again staring at us like one of us just farted. And then up here we can see the sneak peek of the dinosaur itself and the Jurassic World logo. Over here on the side, once again, another sneak peek of our Proceratosaurus, and then we have a little image here showing us that we have to connect the tail. And then here on the back, we've got a shot of the Proceratosaurus, Owen Grady, Velociraptor Blue, and the brand new Basic Spinosaurus, which I have recently reviewed on the channel as well. So let's go ahead, break this out of the packaging, and get a look at it. So here is our Basic Proceratosaurus, who is too tall to fit in frame. There we go, we now have a shot of the figure overall, and I will say that I actually quite like the paint scheme. Honestly, I wasn't too excited about this figure. I was really excited about the initial one, but the paint scheme on the images I had seen online didn't really look that great, and I wasn't super sold on it, but I did want to pick it up just because it was in stock at the same time that the Spinosaurus was, and I did not want to miss a chance to actually buy this when I had it, so I did purchase it. So, it was kind of like a figure, it's like, alright, great, I'm gonna get it, but I'm not super excited about it. But here in person, it's really quite appealing, honestly. Again, it's nothing crazy new, major that you absolutely have to buy it and have it in your collection. But staring at it here at first, I think it does look quite cool, but the only way to get a real good idea of how cool it is will be to get a closer look, so let's do that right now. We can completely skip over reviewing the actual sculpt of the figure because, as I said, I have reviewed the figure before, I have reviewed the sculpt before, so if you want to see a more in-depth review of the sculpt itself, make sure you check in the description as I will have a link to the initial Basic Proceratosaurus that I reviewed. We are basically just going to take a look at what's new, and the very first thing that we'll take a look at here would be the fact that this is now a blackish color up here on the top of the head, which I think actually looks really quite good. The darker coloration up here, it's more like a dark gray, not a black. It's more like a dark, like a pavement gray, but the pavement gray type color, this darker gray, does look really good in comparison to the reddish body color that is the primary body color. So I think as far as color choices, they've done a pretty good job, honestly. As far as deciding which colors can play off of each other really well, I think these two do a very good job. And you also have this kind of yellowish green type color, and I think that also does look quite nice in comparison to these other two colors that we have here. Unfortunately, we don't have any paint on the teeth, and that's kind of become a trademark of these basic figures. You don't ever get paint on the teeth, but you can see that the teeth have a slight gloss, so it does help to elaborate the teeth a little bit and at least help you take note of them, but unfortunately they chose not to add paint. I don't know why they do that. The eyes are painted with a nice greenish color. The pupil has a slit type of a pupil, almost similar to a Velociraptor, and you can also see that it's basically just the same color, this reddish color, as the rest of the body, so they didn't add like a black or anything for the pupil. They just kind of slapped this green over it, and then left the inside where the pupil is kind of open to just catch the reddish coloration behind. But the eyes are actually really nicely placed. They're beautifully glossed, so they have a very, very realistic eye shine to them, which is a huge plus in my opinion. As we move back into the body, you can see that this yellowish green color almost has like areas of the red kind of creeping through, so it's not applied very thick, which I actually think looks really cool and helps to add a little color variation, honestly, because there's certain areas that kind of creep through of the red, and I think that does look really neat. And you can also see that it kind of stripes and litters down on the body pretty much everywhere until you get right about into the hip area, and then it just completely diminishes, and then the rest of the body is just this reddish coloration. The only other difference in color would be a slightly different shade for the end of the tail in comparison to this, and I think that's just due to the fact that both of these pieces are different kinds of material, so the color just kind of lays on it a little bit different. The paint lays on it a little bit differently. Again, the nails of the feet and hands appear to have a slight gloss to them, but there is no actual paint application to them or anything like that. We do have some of those speckles that you see from time to time on Mattel figures, but they're not overly done, not like a lot of figures are where you see them kind of all over the place, but they are definitely there. Other than that though, there's really nothing else to the figure as far as what's new, so let's go ahead and get a size for it. If you happen to own the initial Basic Proceratosaurus, you'll know that this one is absolutely no different in size than the previous release, so you'll know exactly what the size is for this one, but you can see it's at about 12¼ inches, so just over a foot, or about 31 centimeters in length, and for a height you're looking at about 6¾ inches, or about 17 centimeters, almost on the dot. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, Robert Muldoon, and the Attack Pack Colovosaurus right here, kind of giving you an idea of the size of this Basic Proceratosaurus. But honestly, if you happen to have any of the other basic figures, this is pretty much just in the same size range as the rest. They're all that same similar size, which means you know it's a pretty big figure, honestly, but there's not really anything different or new as far as the size of this figure goes in comparison to any of the others. So this brand new Basic Proceratosaurus from Mattel for the Jurassic World line is pretty cool, but it's nothing that's overly amazing or crazy, or like I said, anything that you absolutely need to add to your collection. Honestly, I think I liked the original version better. It had a little bit of a brighter paint application, but I really felt like it was a bit flashier. This one looks a little more probably natural in comparison to what you might find on a real dinosaur, with darker tones of color for the most part, and the initial one was just really bright and flashy. This one not so much, but I still kind of like the flashier appearance of the first one, which is kind of shocking to me as I normally like a more realistic color scheme on my figures, but something about that first one just looked really cool. This one, again, it doesn't look bad. It's definitely a pretty nice look to it. It's just not quite as appealing as the initial release, but that said, you can buy this and have it as like a mating pair. Maybe this would be the female being darker coloration, the previous version would be the male having a brighter coloration. Overall though, I still think the paint application on this looks pretty nice, and being a basic figure, you kind of go into it knowing you're not going to get too much as far as paint apps go, so we can't really be upset about the fact that there's very few colors added into this. The sculpt honestly is fantastic, like I said in the previous review, aside from the short tail, which is unreasonably short on these Proceratosaurus figures from Mattel. It's really quite nicely detailed, very highly detailed, and overall has a really beautiful sculpt for the most part. If it had a bigger tail, I think it would look a lot better, but the tail being smaller doesn't take away from the figure too much, and I still think it's a really nicely done Basic Proceratosaurus from Mattel for sure. Decent paint apps, pretty darn nice looking sculpt, and overall, it's not a must-buy, but it's definitely not something that would hurt picking up if you are looking to complete your collection, or if you're in the market for a very cool Proceratosaurus figure. So if you do want to pick this up, I will include a link in the description for you to do just that on Amazon.com, where I purchased mine. So make sure you head to the description, head over to Amazon, pick up this Basic Proceratosaurus from Mattel, but before you do that, don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.